I think about the sky. The sky has been either a neutral or beautiful thing for humanity for as long as you can remember. Sometimes I'll go to the park, I'll just lie down on the grass. I can look up at the sky, have some connection with nature. In Pakistan, if you were born in 2004, you've lived your entire childhood with the sky looking back at you, being able to judge you, and being able to decide on a moment's notice whether you exist or not. I don't want to live in a world where the sky is full of watchtowers looking down on me. As a photographer, I'm often looking at our visual landscape. And a lot of times I'm looking for things that aren't really clear, things that are at the fringes that we don't know about, or things maybe that the visual picture we get from it is distorted. The thing that continually comes back is the relationship between state power and people. How the government applies pressure or force or molds a country. Photography itself can be used for people to capture their memories, to express their creativity, to document the world around them, or it can be used as a tool for oppression by governments. The title of my project, Blue Sky Days, was a story of a drone strike that really affected me because it was a boy whose relationship with the sky was changed. He watched his grandmother struck by a Hellfire missile from a drone, and he came to the US Congress and testified, and one of the things he said really stuck with me. He said,
Congressman Grayson,
I no longer love blue skies. In fact, I now prefer gray skies. The drones do not fly when the skies are gray, and for a short period of time, the mental tension and fear eases.
Can you imagine that a technology changes the relationship of a child to the sky? I was very concerned about the drone war. You hear about it once in a while, drone strike in Pakistan, drone strike in Yemen. If you put in the words drone war in a Google image search, most of what turns up are pictures of predator drones flying against this beautiful blue sky. That's the visual record of our drone war. Going into war is not something that should be taken lightly. The press has served as a brake on our warlike instincts. To see Nick Ute's picture of the girl running from napalm, Eddie Adams' picture of the assassination, Larry Burroughs' GIs in the mud. And when we see just how brutal it is to kill another human being, the compassion instinct will kick in. If we don't ever see who our victims are, then that empathy never kicks in. I was bothered by that, so I was like, how can I bring the drone war home? Why don't I take whatever information I can about the drone war? Strike reports, reports from Human Rights Watch, from the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, from Amnesty International, and use a little consumer drone to try to make a visual record of that. We only see Pakistan from a drone's eye point of view. Infrared, black and white video. Let's look at America the way that America's looking at other countries. I took those strike reports and I tried to pick out some of the situations that were the most telling. A wedding convoy, a religious school, people exercising that had been hit with missiles. I just went to the United States and looked for very similar kinds of situations, very pedestrian situations, and linked the two events just through the captions. I've got a picture of a grassy lawn, and you see many people laid out. They're on their knees, bending forward like this. I show that picture to people, and I say, what do you think they're doing? I get about a 50-50 response. Half of them say, I think they're praying. I think they're doing the Muslim-style prayer. And the other people say they're doing yoga. And that's the truth. This was in Dolores Park in San Francisco on a sunny day. There were hippies juggling. There were people with hula hoops. There were people doing yoga. There was nothing suspicious about the scene at all. How much does the camera and surveillance equipment lie? How much should you be judged by your metadata, by your heat signature in infrared? It's incomplete and it's an ambiguity.
Roger, receive, target.
A lot of people who work in journalism could very easily fall in the category of doing suspicious signature behavior.
See all those people standing down there?
Signature strikes came out of the rules of engagement that they've given drone pilots. The kill decisions are made not just on knowing the pure identity of somebody anymore. Now the kill decisions are made on somebody's profile gleaned from video data and from cell phone data and where they live.
An open courtyard.
With those two things, they make a judgment whether you're going to live or die or not. One of the people that was killed in the attack that was filmed and released on WikiLeaks was a Reuters photographer.
That's a weapon. Yeah.
Who was on the front lines, and they mistook his long lens for a weapon. You could hear the commentary.
Fucking break.
Hotel 26 is screening orders 1-8. Have individuals with weapons.
Radio. Light them all up.
Come on, fire!
Hey, Roger. Keep shooting. Keep shooting.
Bushmaster 2-6. We need to move time now.
All right, we just engaged all 8 individuals.
Mistakes are made in warfare, even when you're face to face. But then if you start adding extra layers in there, if you start putting the soldiers in some shipping container out in Las Vegas, the pilots of the drones, that's where they are, and they're watching all of this on screens, some of those filters will cut back on empathy. Some of those will add ambiguity and make it more difficult to differentiate between friend and foe, between civilians and combatants. Politicians saying this is a surgical instrument. It doesn't do collateral damage. When you read the statistics, you hear that there's been around 300 kids that were killed. You can't tell me that this is a precise surgical way of waging war. I was in Philadelphia on the top of these stairs. They call them the Rocky Stairs. I was already flying when this wedding party stopped their car, came up there. And so I was able to film the whole thing, the people lining up there, getting ready. My drone was pretty high, and all the adults were looking towards the wedding photographer. They're really trying to concentrate and look their best and everybody be pretty. But the flower girl, she heard some buzzing up in the sky. It sounds kind of like a swarm of bees or like a hairdryer or something like that. And for a second, everybody else was posing for the photograph, and she just threw her head back to look what's up there. And at that second, I got the photo of her. That moment was her recognizing my drone. But I also imagine the feeling somebody would get if they're at a wedding in Pakistan. There's going to be a moment right before the missile hits, right before the drone just erases you out of existence. The wedding strikes, I don't know how they happen or what goes wrong, but the fact that that act of love, bringing together two families, can somehow be misconstrued by an intelligence agency as the opportune moment to strike, for death to pop out of the sky at that moment and just erase people from the planet. I mean, I find that truly horrifying. One of the things that really bugs human rights organizations is something called double tap strikes. There will be suspects in a car. The drone will fly over them. It will fire their missiles. And unlike another kind of aircraft, it can linger as long as it wants. Somebody will see the burning car from the horizon and try to pull the victims out of the car. And they'll strike again. Under the laws of war, somebody who is aiding an injured combatant is not the same thing as a combatant. So I had that on my list. I was like, how do you get the double tap strike? One day I was driving along, and on the horizon there was a huge column of smoke. There was a car that had caught on fire, and the firemen had just arrived. And I could take a picture of the first responders responding to a car fire in the way that all human beings should. Put out the fire, get the victims out as fast as you can. But that's not the operational orders that the drone pilots are given. And they're told, if somebody's pulling that suspect out, fire again. I went through this creepy realization during the research of the project. Drones are used abroad, they're used in conflict, in warfare. Military planners love them. What if one day the police and security forces of the United States love them and adopt them too? What if in the future? The Electronic Frontier Foundation did a Freedom of Information Act request, and they got released the records of everywhere the FAA gave an authorization to government entities to fly over the United States. If you look at the map, it's like red dots all over the United States. Even if Americans think, I've never seen a drone, chances are a drone has already seen them. There are American citizens who have been put on the kill list. A guy named Anwar al-Awlaki. A lot of terrorist attempts have been traced back to him. A very high priority guy. The executive branch decided.
But when a U.S. citizen goes abroad to wage war against America and is actively plotting to kill U.S. citizens, and when neither the United States nor our partners are in a position to capture him before he carries out a plot, his citizenship should no more serve as a shield than a sniper shooting down on an innocent crowd should be protected from a SWAT team.
This American citizen is trouble, and we're going to kill him with a drone. I wanted to talk about that guy. I've eventually got the birth records for Anwar al-Awlaki, and I flew my drone over his house. For the state to kill somebody in the United States, the number of legal loops that you have to jump through before that happens, it's a pretty high bar, and there are still mistakes. What about only one branch of government, clandestine, no transparency, the decisions are not released to the public, unilaterally deciding when to kill an American citizen and then firing on them with a drone? Boom, he doesn't exist anymore. We are in like a breakthrough period right now. Drones are far more accessible and available than they ever were before. The worst case scenario is that the drones dominate us rather than us using them as a tool. If I can bring the drones into our documentary photography tradition and pull it out of the spying and targeting, that's a small victory too. Working with this printer in Paris now who's been printing for like 30 years. I've inserted some human touch into the project. It was a human eye that decided what the picture would be, and it was a human craftsman that made the object that you're holding. It's partially an act of resistance. There's also a tendency of photography being seen on screens and being more and more ephemeral. I want my photo to stay. I want it to be stuck in their minds. I want there to be a permanent visual record of the dawn of the drone age. The period in American history when America started outsourcing their military to flying robots. When our government doesn't have a conscience, image makers, creative people, artists, we need to push back and we need to be that conscience.